Welcome back. My name is Jason, and today I'm going to be talking about The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. This is one of the seminal books in science fiction. It really is. Douglas Adams wrote this, I have to check, but it's been a long time. I remember when I was growing up, I hadn't read the book, but my dad had a text-based adventure of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy for our Apple IIe, that old. I tried to play it, and I just wasn't getting it, and so I read the book, and I still didn't get the game because there were some things about the game in the book that were, obviously they had to be different because they had to put puzzles in. It wasn't until much later, early 2000s, that I finally went back and beat the text game. Anyway, so it opens up on Earth with Arthur Dent. Arthur Dent's living in England, and he is his house is about to be demolished by a wrecking crew because they're making way for an interstate bypass, basically. Which turns out to be the least of his worries. So he's sitting there, laying down in front of the bulldozer so nobody can bulldoze his house. And I still remember back to the video game. I played it, and the first time I saw the bulldozers there ready to demolish my house, I'm like, fine. And I walk away from the house, and I walked away from the house, and then the next thing you know is that your house gets knocked down, which obviously would happen if you weren't laying in front of the bulldozers, and a brick comes flying out of nowhere and kills you. So you have to start over. So you have to somehow figure out how to stop the bulldozers from bulldozing your house. Anyway, back to the book. So he's there, and he is blocking the bulldozers from bulldozing his house. And then his friend Ford Prefect shows up. Ford, it turns out, is an alien. Unbeknownst to Arthur and unbeknownst to anyone on Earth, he's been stranded there for a while. And he convinces the foreman of the crew to lay down in front of the bulldozer in your place so that you and he can go off to the pub. So you go off to the pub, and he gets a bunch of drinks in front of you and is urging you to get the drinks down. You don't know why, but he's urging you to get the drinks down. I'm going back and forth between the book and the game. In the book, he's urging Arthur to drink the drinks. So Arthur and he drink, and they talk, find out that Arthur saved Ford, and Ford is trying to do the same thing. He is trying to save Arthur from an intergalactic wrecking crew that is coming through to demolish the Earth to make way for an interstellar bypass. So he gets Arthur to drink some more drinks. They hear outside that his house has fallen down. They go running over there, and that's when the Vogons show up, the Vogon constructor fleet that's there to just demolish the Earth and make way for the interstellar bypass. At that point, Ford uses a device, and they get beamed onto the alien spaceship, and Earth gets destroyed, and basically the only two people who survive are Arthur and Ford. And they wake up on the Vogon spaceship. Now, this is when Arthur gets introduced to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and the Don't Panic and all that other stuff. And if you've seen the movie, he was in The Hobbit. Martin Freeman. Martin Freeman did a great job as Arthur Dent. There were a few departures from the book that really weren't necessary, but I very much enjoyed the movie. Anyway, once Arthur and Ford get away from Earth, that's when when Arthur realizes there's much more to the galaxy, and ends up on the Heart of Gold, which is the most fantastic ship in the universe, and their trip to Magrathea to find the computer Deep Thought that has the supposed answer to the question that is the ultimate question to life, the universe, and everything. If you're not familiar with The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but you've heard people say something like, what's the answer? And they say 42. This is where it comes from. The whole backstory is, maybe I shouldn't tell you this, but the whole backstory is that there was a race of super beings that wanted to find out the ultimate answer to to life, the universe, and everything. And so they constructed this computer called Deep Thought. And Deep Thought said, come back in an astronomical number of years, and that Deep Thought would have the answer. So they came back in that astronomical unit of time, and Deep Thought told them that they weren't really going to like the answer, and the answer was 42. And they're like, 42? What's that? What good is that going to do for us? And Deep Thought told them that it could calculate the answer, but not the question. And once they understood the question, they would understand the answer that Deep Thought gave them. I keep thinking of Deep Thought as a she because of the movie, and they used a female voice for it, but Deep Thought is a computer. Anyway, Deep Thought then devised a computer that could calculate the question to life. The question, not the answer, but the actual question that they needed to understand the answer that they got. And the computer in question was the Earth. And then it was destroyed by the Vogons, and it was just about to give the question to the ultimate answer. And so they meet up again. Once again, I go back to Arthur and Ford. They're on the Vogon constructor fleet. They end up meeting up with later with the Heart of Gold. The Heart of Gold being the most fantastic spaceship ever designed. And the Heart of Gold, on the Heart of Gold was Zaphod Beeblebrox and Trillium. Trillium was an Earth girl, Earthling like Arthur, and she met Zaphod Beeblebrox, and he took her away from the planet before the Vogons got there, and before Arthur and Ford left. Arthur had met Trillium at a party. Her name is actually Tricia McMillan. He'd met her at a party on Earth that Zaphod had also attended. Now, Zaphod had been, Zaphod still was, the president of the galaxy. And like, the thing is that I'm giving you all these details about the story and everything, and it's just so convoluted in some ways. You have to read it to really get how these things go together. Zaphod had become president of the galaxy and found out about the Magrathea thing, and wanted that information. And so he ended up stealing the Heart of Gold and then running into Arthur and Ford and everything along the way. There's just some really interesting asides in the book. Zaphod, also president of the galaxy, He also invented the Pan Galactic Gargle Blaster, which is a drink that is likened to having your brain, how did they put it? Your brain smashed out of your head with a gold brick. So there's just these jokes and asides that go into it all throughout the book. If you haven't ever read it, I encourage you to do so. If you have read it and you haven't read the rest of the series, well, I highly recommend The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The others, your mileage may vary. I was not as impressed with the later books in the series, and I believe his name is pronounced Johann Kolfer. He wrote the Artemis Fowl series. He did basically the follow-up to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series, and I feel he tried to stick with the theme that Douglas Adams had established going into it, but it wasn't. I really didn't like that one. So, what can you do? So, like I said, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, amazing, funny book, great sci-fi, a lot of stuff going on there, just a blast to read and to reread. But after that, your mileage may vary. Anyway, as always, like and subscribe. Ask any questions you want to down in the comments, or just say, hey, I read this book and I thought it was, and let me know what you thought of it. If you have any questions or comments, like I said, leave them down below. Put on the notification bell, and as always, enjoy what you're reading.